What attracted you initially to join the financial industry, and what moments particularly shaped your leadership style?
Yeah, thank you again for having me. I'm specifically honored and privileged because I was working for Raiffeisen Group, so I'm glad that you're doing this. I call this a good practice, talking to people from the region and from the business. It was kind of a coincidence to end up in banking, but Slovenia was getting independent in 1991. I was finishing my studies a couple of years later, and everyone was talking about now we become free economy, and will have market economy, and we will have capital market, and it became a very appealing idea. I really was the stock exchange has been introduced as an organized market in Slovenia, and it became really something that young people were now bubbling around in the schools everywhere. I want to be a stockbroker. So I actually really wanted to become a stockbroker, and I did become a stockbroker. So my apprenticeship was actually in at that time largest privately held stock brokerage institution. But then I realized that after 6 months of working in it, that selling expectations is a tough job. Because it's very difficult, to confront the situations when you are not actually delivering at the client was expecting you to be delivering at, right? Because of course markets are volatile, valuations are very volatile, and you are selling anticipations and expectations. This was one point of view, but on the other hand, I was actually commuting daily pretty far because I was born and raised in Ptuj, which is the oldest Slovenian town, northeast, close to Graz.
A beautiful one, by the way.
Close to Austrian border.
For those who have never visited Slovenia,
you should.
One of the places to be.
Yes, absolutely. But I was commuting on a daily basis to Ljubljana. And then my wife got pregnant, and it was pretty high stretch because I was leaving Ptuj at 5:45 in the morning, and I was coming back at 9, 10 o'clock in the evening, and it was on a daily basis becoming a real stretch. And then I saw Bankhaus Ritterstadt actually publishing a job ad for the client manager for corporates for northeastern Slovenia, sitting in Maribor, which is actually of course half an hour commute, which is something totally convenient. I didn't know what to expect. I applied. And by coincidence, basically, me wanting to move instead of commuting to Ljubljana to commuting to Maribor ended up in banking. I'm a sales guy by nature. You can see that I'm a pretty extrovert, right? And I was able to persuade these guys that maybe I'm the right choice, to open up the market because BAC at that point in time was pretty weak in this northeastern part of the country. And then I started, top-down marketing plans. I was driving my Toyota Yaris at that point of time, from client to client, building my portfolio. And after a year, I had quite a good success with my portfolio. And then I was offered immediately after a year, basically, to head a mid-market department. SME department, it's a mid-sized companies department in Ljubljana. Again, Ljubljana. Then there was a privatization process actually pending of Nova Kreditna Banka Maribor, which was the second largest bank at that time in the country. And Bankhaus Ritterstadt was actually pretendant in this show, right, at that point in time. Unicredit and BACA had the best chances. Hypovereinsbank was already owning BACA, but BACA was actually labeled as the buyer, not Hypovereinsbank Group, right? Which was maybe a strategic mistake at that point of time because it gave an excuse to local politicians, no, these Austrian guys are not buying us. If it was German at that point in time, maybe it would even fly.
Maybe it could have been
Maybe it could even fly. This little
2006?
2000, yeah, it was 2001, 2. Yeah, that period.
Really?
Yeah, I was in BACA since 1st of January 2000 up to end of February 2002 when I joined Raiffeisen Group, right? And then I was again commuting. I was in Ljubljana. Of course, this privatization didn't go through. It failed, right? Because you couldn't sell to Austrians nor Italians, right? So they stopped it, they pulled it back. And then I was again commuting, and then my wife got pregnant for the second time. Again, I was in a stretch. And then guess what? Raiffeisen was coming to Slovenia.
And this was Maribor.
Yeah, it was Maribor. It was buying a small bank, Krekova Bank at that point of time. Unfortunately, I didn't understand that this was not yet then really full-fledged ambition. Then under Mr. Stepic, still Raiffeisen was really growing like hell. I mean, throughout the entire region, organically.
Now I'm curious to hear your view on, because you mentioned your view on the privatization process and Hypovereins, etc. Yeah. How about that one, if you wish to share?
It was a very interesting experience. I mean, Mr. Stepic was an extremely charismatic person. He was then chairing the supervisory board. But then I actually sent... From this point on, I was no longer selling applications. From this point on, I was already selling offers. So I was trying to identify the project that is of interest to me, and then I actually tried to analyze the project, really addressed it in a way that I was sending an offer for cooperation to the board. I believe your company at this point of time has this challenge, and I believe I'm qualified enough to address this challenge appropriately, right? And I sent this actually to Raiffeisen at that point of time, local management team that came in, right? That was an Austrian CEO, CMO at that point, a corporate board member appointed. And then, of course, because we had the CA background, so I actually learned my banking in CA Academy in Schottengasse. So, I'm Viennese born in terms of banking.
A lot of people do that.
Right, yeah. So really corporate banking, this was a hub. CA was a hub for corporate banking, right, in Vienna. So I learned my cash flow-based lending principles then there, right? And then actually, I was immediately more or less recognized as someone that potentially is the right selection because I had this training, hardcore training, knew the region, knew the country already. And then I took over corporate banking. Then I was actually fished already after 2 years. Then Bauer PSK came in as a greenfield project, and I was headhunted already then. So since then, it was headhunting more or less. But it was a very interesting introduction into banking because it was never, on my horizon at all. I wanted to be a broker and then whatever, private equity, business, sexy stuff, right? Not traditional banking.
So you just grabbed the opportunities. And someone may say it were coincidences, but it's permanently, the opportunities came and you accepted
it evolves
them.
in front of your eyes, right?
Raiffeisen Bank International. Make it happen.